Okay, hi everyone. I'm Joanna Goldfarb from the Rambo Catskill Library System. Thank you for joining us today for an introduction to MyCoast, New York. I'm going to keep this super brief and just pass it off to today's presenter, Jessica Quonen.
Thanks so much. Um, hey, everybody, thanks for being here. I'm just going to share my screen. And does that look okay? All right, great. Hey, everyone, I'm Jess Coonan. I'm an estuary resilience specialist with New York Sea Grant, and I'm going to talk to you today about a program and a tool called MyCoast New York, which is for documenting local flooding through photos. So as I mentioned, I work for New York Sea Grant. New York Sea Grant is a federal academic partnership between the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Cornell University, and SUNY in New York State. We are one of 34 university-based programs under NOAA's National Sea Grant Program, and we function as a statewide network of research, education, and extension services that supports community, coastal economic vitality, environmental sustainability, and citizen awareness and understanding of New York's marine and Great Lakes resources. So at New York Sea Grant, we have 4 focus areas: healthy coastal ecosystems. We work on sustainable fisheries and seafood businesses. That's mostly in Long Island and the Great Lakes. We have an environmental literacy and workforce development focus area. We do a lot of teacher trainings with educators that work with K through 12 students. And my focus area is resilient communities and economies. And so I'm located in Kingston, New York, and I serve the 10 counties that border the tidal Hudson River. You can see the Hudson River estuary watershed outlined in blue there. And my work focuses on coastal hazards, climate change, and overall estuary health. And to do my work, I work with many stakeholders and partners throughout the watershed. And the program I'm talking about today is a statewide program and a partnership with the New York State Water Resources Institute. So this is a screenshot of the homepage for MyCoast New York. You can see the URL at the top of the screen, and I'll share it after the talk. But MyCoast, it's a website and an app that functions as a database where New Yorkers can contribute and access photo reports of flooding and storm damage throughout the state. So there are 7 other states in the country that have a subscription to MyCoast New York, including our neighbors in New Jersey and Massachusetts and Rhode Island. But here in New York, we have 2 photo reports activated. One is called Flood Watch New York, and that's for tracking any type of flooding across the state. And one is called Storm Reporter, and that's for documenting damage after a storm. And so when a photo is uploaded to MyCoast, either through the phone app or the website, it is linked to environmental data, and then it's posted on a searchable web page. And even though it's called MyCoast New York, it can be used for inland flooding. And like I said, it's used statewide. So don't let the coast in the name fool you. So why are we doing this? Let's talk about flooding for a moment in the Hudson Valley. So floods are a natural part of the water cycle, and a flood is the simple definition is water that's on land that's usually dry. And flood risk is pretty complex. It's based on a lot of different variables, and it really depends on kind of where you're located in relation to like a river or, the estuary. But generally, we can say that flood risk is increasing across the Hudson Valley and throughout the Northeast. And it's for a couple of main reasons. One big reason is that the climate is changing. So we're having more frequent and intense storm events. We've always experienced hurricanes and tropical storms and nor'easters. But these days, just a thunderstorm can bring a really heavy downpour with a lot of rain in a short amount of time. And if you're along the estuary shoreline, sea level rise is accelerating. But another big factor in all of this is where and how we build. So, how close you are to the floodplain. And then a lot of our infrastructure is aging and undersized to carry these larger flows of water that we're seeing. So it's all kind of related. The image in the upper right, this was taken in a suburban area outside of Albany, and it was a storm drain that was either blocked or it wasn't big enough to handle the amount of rain that came through, and so that backed up onto the road. And in the lower right, this is from the Rondout Creek in Kingston, and that was a mix of storm surge, so flooding from the ocean mixed with a lot of heavy precipitation nearby. And so we're just seeing this more and more. So why would we want to document this with this tool, MyCoast New York? So a lot of the models that we use when we build infrastructure or we do planning, all models have limitations and they can't always capture everything. So a lot of the things that photos can help us with is both validating these models and also getting a picture for the extent of flooding, the frequency flooding, and then more importantly, what is being impacted by the flooding. MyCoast can also be a way to engage community members to collect a local data set that can help complement these models and also these planning processes that our communities are taking part in to try to, upgrade our infrastructure and improve our emergency management and all of that. And then, of course, there's that, famous saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So they make a really effective communication tool. So who is involved in the MyCoast New York project? So we have a range of what we consider them community scientists, and community science projects, they involve community members in observations and in science that can help their local community, their scientists, and it can help inform management decisions and policy. And so MyCoast is an example of a contributory project model for community science. So the primary role is that the members of the community who are listed here, they contribute their photos that can then help decision makers. And so we had a survey of our MyCoast New York contributors in 2023. And these were just some of the motivations that they gave for contributing to this program. So it's people that just want to contribute to something to help with this issue, people that are interested in tracking change. Many have lived through the traumatic experience of a flood. And then there's also concerned residents, people on the front lines, so emergency managers and first responders, weather enthusiasts, and community advocates. And then the way that the data is being used is it's being used for education, risk communication. It's been used in grant applications. It's been used by the National Weather Service for improving their forecasts. We had a situation where they've started issuing a new alert for the northern part of the Hudson River estuary because they didn't realize how much coastal flooding was occurring. And so the photos helped with that. And then I talk with a lot of emergency managers that are excited about the tool so that they can use it more in the field. And as I mentioned, it's also used in model validation and community planning, particularly hazard mitigation planning at the county level. So the way this whole loop is that, the community contributes photos and that leads to improved decisions. So as I mentioned, the photos are linked to nearby weather, tidal, and river data. So this photo is an unnamed event that took place in April 2022 in New Paltz. And this is just kind of showing some pieces of what a photo report looks like from the FloodWatch tool. So what happens in MyCoast is it places your photo on a map. So this is where the photo was taken. And then it displays the nearby river gauges. So At the time, you can see that these rivers were at flood and action stage. And then it also pulls in nearby weather data. So based on this, we can see that there was over 2 inches of rain in the past 24 hours. And so this information helps add context to the photo. It's not always perfect. You know, it's rare that there's a river gauge in your exact location of where a photo was taken, but it just helps give you kind of over a regional view of what was happening weather-wise. So once the photos are uploaded, you can access them on the MyCoast New York website. You would go to the search reports tab, and then from here, you can filter for reports, and you can also download reports. And I'm going to demonstrate this right now because this is one of the best parts of MyCoast is being able to access photos. So here I am on the home page. You can scroll down and find more information about it, but I'm going to go over to the search reports tab. And so here we can see it's displaying the most recent 50 photos. We have 1354 total. The photo locations are displayed on this map. Our filters are over here, and then we can see our most recent reports. So just yesterday, we got some in from Long Island, Queens, and Kingston, New York. And does anybody know what was happening this weekend of why there might be photo reports? There was no rain, but we had a lot of flooding. And maybe you aren't along the coast, but we had a big coastal flooding event. So another way to say it is sunny day flooding. And so, you know, we had a full moon last week. The moon is in a phase where it's close. Yep, that's right. The moon is closest to the Earth this time of year. And then we also have a big high pressure system off the coast. And so that was creating all that like mix of factors created these higher water levels. So I'm going to click on this report from Kingston. And this just gives you an idea of what the report looks like. So it's got the date and the time the photo was taken. This is where it is on the map. We can see our photo. We can see our data over on the right here. It was taken a little after high tide, and there was no rain in the past 24 hours. And then there's also on the form, you have a chance to add some additional like comments or observations, but none of these are required. So here, this person says, we saw several cars turn around to avoid driving through the flooded area, and there was no barricade that was up. So now I'm going to go back to my presentation here, if you just bear with me. Okay. That was the demonstration. So to become a MyCoast New York volunteer, you can download the app in your app store right now. It's on Google and Android and Apple phones. But you can also just visit the website. You register using your name and email address, and then you can start submitting photo reports. So I mentioned this before, but the FloodWatch photo report is for tracking flooding across the state. And there's many different types of flooding, and we'll take them all. So it can be ranging from river flooding to a blocked storm drain to just a high water event, to tidal flooding to maybe a flooded farm field nearby. So if it's water on land that's normally dry, we'll take it. And then we also have this storm reporter report. You'll see that as an option if you use the app. And this is for documenting damage after a storm. So damage from wind, water, ice, or snow. And it can be damage to infrastructure, the natural environment. So here, pictured here, there's damage to a bridge, down trees and power lines. And then people also use the storm reporter report to document flooding as well. And that's fine. So real quick, how to upload a photo. This is screenshots from my phone. When you open up the app, this is the home page. There will always be a tide chart there. So just prepare yourself for that if you're not someone that's, normally paying attention to the tides. But you would hit add report at the bottom of the screen. You would select your flood report. Here I'm selecting flood watch. You would select the photo from the library or take the photo. It should automatically update the date and the time that the photo was taken. And then on the final screen, you confirm on a map that the photo is in the place that the photo was taken. Sometimes if we try to upload a photo that maybe got that data, that metadata of date, time, location stripped away from it, we'll have to manually enter that because it will default to, the current time where you're sitting at your computer. So, the flood photo would show up maybe at your house instead of out in the field somewhere. And then there's always this option to hide your name on the report if you would rather upload it anonymously. And then you would hit submit. So I just want to take a moment to emphasize that safety is always a priority. Whenever I give these talks, I want to make sure that people are always following the precautions from their local authorities. Only take a photo after the storm has passed, once it's safe, and never put yourself in harm's way. And the type of things that we are looking for are impacts to structures and roadways, the extent and the depth of flooding. That really helps with model validation as well, if you can get like a depth marker in there. And also when something floods repeatedly. And we love kind of artistic photos as well. So if you can include like landmark signs to give a sense of scale, include a person, capture movement, and then don't zoom in on anything because it just makes the photo blurry. So on the web page, we also have a resources page. You would go to the New York MyCoast tab, and then it'll be there, resources. We have a couple different flyers, some two-sided fact sheets. We also have some newsletters that we try to put out twice a year, just to give information back to the community and kind of build a sense of community around who's using MyCoast across New York. And we also have some recordings. I do want to note that we did some rebranding for inland communities that maybe don't identify as coastal. And so these are this is the green flyer and the green fact sheet. And I have, or I'll just say that I have these printed and I can send them to anyone that's interested. And it's funny, when we were starting MyCoast and deciding our outreach strategy, we really did see libraries as a great way to get the word out. So we also have these MyCoast New York bookmarks. And I've actually gone and dropped some off at libraries throughout the Hudson Valley. So you can let me know if you'd like some of those, but also I'm really interested in hearing from you, are there ways that your community can contribute to MyCoast, and what can the MyCoast program do to help reach patrons, if this is something that you're interested in promoting or building programming around, or using as, a library that might be interested in flood mitigation for your building. And then just to put it in the statewide perspective, the program has been active for a little over 2 years. We have over 1,300 photo reports from 24 counties. I'm located right here in Kingston, so I think that, that promotion and outreach is reflected in the numbers. But when it comes to the counties that are represented in the RCLS system and more of the western side of Ulster County, we definitely have some gaps. So just putting out a call today to, see if anyone on the line is interested in collaborating and in promoting MyCoast. So I'll leave it there, and happy to take any questions or have some discussion. And thanks again for having me here.
Jessica, I was wondering if you could just explain also what Sea Grant New York is very briefly.
Yeah. So Sea Grant is we're a partnership between NOAA, Cornell, and SUNY in New York State. So I'm employed through Cornell. I'm an extension specialist. So I serve the Hudson Valley. So I live in the Hudson Valley, and the goal of my job is really to understand the needs, what's needed by community members around resilience. So I work with a lot of local governments, um, and and then I go back to the university, understand what the best available research is and try to bridge that kind of divide between research and real world application. And so throughout Sea Grant, other extension specialists focusing on different things. That's kind of what we try to be, is that bridge between academia and then like real world practice. And so we work with a lot of different stakeholders throughout New York State and a lot of different partners, and we all kind of have unique programming based on the local needs. And then Sea Grant, New York Sea Grant itself also funds research every 2 years for universities in New York State. And and we also have a communications team that helps, get the word out of the work that we're doing. So yeah, I hope that helps. It's a little confusing. It's always a struggle explaining what New York Sea Grant is.
That was great. Thank you. If anyone has questions, you can put them in the chat, or I think we're an OK size group that you are able to just unmute yourselves and ask any questions.
I'm wondering where people are calling in from today. Um,
Yeah, earlier we were introducing ourselves, and Jennifer said she's from Greenwood Lake. Anyone else?
okay. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand, like, is flooding an issue for you guys? Are you hearing that from library patrons that, this is an area that people are interested in? Oh yeah, so people are from all over.
So I put in the chat that I work in Middletown, but I live in New Jersey, and it's funny, when we purchased our house, we were in the flood zone because of one of the hurricanes that came through maybe like 15 years ago. And now since then FEMA has redone the maps and we're out of the flood zone. But what's actually occurred is our area is flooding because of all of the rain, and the water table is so high. Like, thankfully, our house has not been hit, but I mean, literally across the street where it just dips down, like massive amounts of flooding. Um, it's really severe, like cars just underwater, like really, really bad. So, um, it's happening, and it's happening way more frequently than it was when we first moved 9 years ago.
Thanks for sharing that. And it's really changing faster than, like I said, the models can keep up. And when land is developed, that changes the way flooding occurs. And so that's, I guess, one upside of the program is just documenting that change for New Yorkers. Yeah.
I live in Monroe, and we are pretty much any time there's a lot of sudden rain, there's going to be flooding somewhere along the roadway. Um, so it seems like it is getting progressively worse every year. I don't usually take a picture because I'm driving and it's not safe to do so.
That's yeah.
In the chat, we have someone lives in Dutchess, works in Rockland. We have someone from Warwick and someone from Pearl River.
Not as familiar with all these places, but Yeah, I think flooding is occurring everywhere these days. And I know Rockland and Orange County and Dutchess have all been hit in recent years. So yeah, we're just trying to reflect that in the tool and tell the story of flooding in the Hudson Valley.
Off the top of your head, can you think of an area or a county that has not been extremely impacted by flooding, or is this across the board?
Um, yeah, I can't think of a county that hasn't been. Um, maybe maybe up north a little in some of the more rural areas, but I'm just not sure. Um, yeah, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule for it because even if you live like on a hill, I kind of live on a hill, but the groundwater tables are getting higher, and my basement is like flooding more often because of that. So it's yeah, it's pretty widespread.
Anyone else? Any questions? Any ideas of how libraries can help if your library would be interested in learning more? All right, then. Well, if no one has any questions, I think we can end it there.
Great. Thanks so much for having
All
me.
right. Thank you. And just a reminder to everyone to keep an eye on your inbox for a survey, and the recording should be ready by next week. Okay. Thank you all.